all of a sudden, gates of the wall that surround Bethlehem and Jerusalem are separated. They open. Tanks start coming down the street. Water cannons start going off. Plastic bullets are being fired. There's tear gas going through the air. It's like, I've actually on my phone, I've still got some video of like this tear gas going through. Thousands of people scattering all over the street. I have to admit, like on the video, I'm like jumping under behind the back, and you go, "What the hell just happened there?" Yeah, that went on for the entire day. So we didn't even know if the game was going to go ahead.
Welcome to the Lockdown Live podcast. My name is Jamie Flynn. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at jam_fly. All podcasts are available on our YouTube channel. And while you are there, I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. Welcome to the Lockdown Life podcast. My guest today is a sports scientist who got his start working for Blackburn Rovers under Big Sam. Since then, he has worked in some far-reaching and exotic locations such as Shanghai, Thailand, Jordan, and Kilmallock. Welcome to the podcast, Benni McCarthy.
How you doing, Jamie? Thanks for having me on.
How's lockdown treating you, Derek?
Yeah, look, it's been quite good. As you mentioned there, I've spent probably the last 3 years of my life the other side of the world, and this lockdown has allowed me to spend probably the most extended period of time at home, which thankfully has been it's been kind to us with the weather and just generally doing kind of odd jobs around the place that I wanted to get done, so I've been able to stay pretty active. Out here in Kilmallock, we're very lucky. There's a loop walk around the town, and been able to avail of that and getting up early in the morning and taking the dog for a walk, something that probably missed out on over the last 3 years or so.
Good stuff, yeah. So Derek, you started studying sports science in the University of Limerick. Before embarking on that, you had a playing career with Limerick FC. Can you tell me a bit about what your kind of plans were when you were, maybe a teenager or a young adult? Was sports science always something you thought you could get into, or were there other plans for you or other options?
Yeah, I remember being in school telling the teacher I was going to be a professional footballer, and he laughed at me. And rightly so, he trying to explain to me that the chances of a kid from our part to become a professional footballer. But I really only had my heart set on playing football, which, as I said, is probably the majority of kids' dreams. But the way things worked out with going from, say, playing for a small club like Kilfinnan Forest out in the country, going into Limerick FC as a 16-year-old, playing a couple of years youth football under Noel O'Connor, and then Tommy Lynch gave me an opportunity to play League of Ireland, albeit at a time when the club, as it has done many times throughout its history being kind of, struggling for finances, and, really, a lot of emphasis had to go on the slightly cheaper option of the youth option. We couldn't afford maybe to bring in players. So I got an opportunity, and thankfully got good, 8 or 10 years of playing league, at a reasonably high level of football in this country.
Yeah. When during your kind of playing career did you start thinking about sports science or getting a degree or that kind of stuff? Yeah,
so I'd been a butcher, and I'd injured my back around 2002, and I kind of went from 2002 to 2006 kind of in between jobs. I worked in my uncle's bar for a while. I signed for Galway United and played. I'd worked in a factory up there, and education was always something I thought I'd left behind me. I thought that when I was in school, I didn't put too much emphasis on it, but I knew that I'd like to do something in college and university. And I thought the fact that my passion was so much for sports that I would try and do something along those lines as a mature student. So it was actually Dave Mahidi who I had been a sales rep for the chairman at the time, Danny Drew, and I wasn't really enjoying it, and I rang Dave and just said, would he mind giving me a few minutes of his time, which he kindly did, and give me a bit of advice and maybe some of the opportunities that sports science was now a real growing field, and that going alongside it, started doing my coaching badges, that maybe this this might be something that on an interview basis that I might be accepted onto the course. So thankfully I did, and to be honest, I'm forever grateful to Dave for that, afternoon in UL in his office, because I just needed that little bit of, I suppose, reassurance and guidance from someone who knew, probably was quite familiar on the pathway that I was going to embark on, which isn't for everybody. Going back as a mature student is extremely difficult, so, and it's not a pathway that I would recommend to any youth. Go wait till you're 26 to go and do this. No, get it done now, get it done at 18, 19, 20, but as I said, it ended up being, a right decision, I think.
Yeah. Looking back in your playing days, any particular standouts or memories that really hold a special place for you?
Yeah, look, I suppose the one that is, a bit of bittersweet, from a team point of view, winning the League Cup in 2003 was as a team, and for my mates, all the guys who were on the team, was, was brilliant. But then it's a little bittersweetness that I didn't play in the final due to injury. I played in all the rounds leading up to it. I scored against Cork City in the quarterfinals. I played in the win against Shanghai Rovers, but I just got that injury in my back and just couldn't shake it, and ultimately ended up having an operation on it. But yeah, that's one that, as I said, looking back at it, and some of the lads I played with during that era, that was a really good time. Things like on my home debut for Limerick, scoring 2 goals against Dundalk. I look back on that quite fondly. Scoring a hat-trick above in home farm. Like a few highs. But didn't win a lot of silverware. Won the Munster Senior Cup. And again, I suppose it's the fact that football in the city, as big as it is, the team Limerick didn't. It wasn't like as if we won it, like as if we'd won the League Cup in was it 2015? We lost to St. Pat's. Yeah, we a team in the Marquee. Like that was an occasion. That was fight. Even though Jackman Park was a great crowd, but like that night that we lost to St. Pat's, it felt like such a bigger occasion than what maybe we'd experienced in 2003. So those wins that we got Munster Senior Cup didn't really carry, at the time, probably the level of success or achievement that it is. It's great to win a Munster Senior Cup. You don't win it every year. You don't. It's rarely you win stuff. But I think just at the time when you're playing, you don't really take these things in. You just take it as being quite natural. And I actually have had that a little bit in my sports science career. And when I was at Blackburn, I just thought it was normal and that's what you do. And then suddenly I was out of the game after Preston North End for a few years, and you're kind of going, it's hard to get back in. You're speaking to other guys and you kind of go, I didn't really appreciate that. Because now a little bit older and having that experience, you kind of appreciate those things a bit better.
Yeah, I think just being thankful, and as they say, remembering to kind of just smell the roses once in a while is definitely
I said I definitely didn't give myself, I suppose personally, whether other people did it or not, but I listened to a few podcasts over this lockdown, and guys like John White and Paul Finucane, and you just a little name drop, didn't make any of their teams, but just even to get mentioned, for me it was like, oh, actually other guys thought it was, half decent, so those kind of things at the time, you just think you're just playing and you're enjoying it. It's only when you look back at it that you maybe, like medals, I couldn't tell you where there's a medal, jerseys, things like that, they're probably somewhere in my parents' house. That night I scored 2 goals against Dundalk. It was a chorus, used videos, and I had that video at home. I have no idea where it is. It's just gone. It's just, but little mementos that I probably should have kept hold of, really, in hindsight.
Yeah. I think definitely getting that balance of kind of being present and living in the moment, but still kind of appreciating where you're at and having those kind of memories from those kind of times is important, I think.
And that's where I think the phone, as much as people say lament about technology and that, Facebook obviously with their sharing your memories, and it is nice to wake up some mornings and just to remind you about that time in 2017 or 2018 when you had a moment that you took a photograph with a group of people and that, because those memories sometimes do get lost and we do forget about them. And as you said, just to sometimes get re-jog the memory and relive them to a certain extent can bring a little bit of happiness, especially times like this when you go, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be, at the beach or, whatever. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whether at the beach, on the football pitch, in the pub, spending time with friends, any of that, so it's just shows kind of where we're at.
Literally, all of the above is things that I enjoy doing, so.
Yeah, yeah. So you started you started college in UL, and it was just kind of a co-op work placement opportunity with Blackburn, just to kind of how did that come about?
Yeah, so at the time, a friend of mine, Damien Lee, had a company called Coaching Data, and they basically used just piece of software that was logging information ahead of their time in the what we see now on apps and what people use to log training data and things like that. They were one of the first companies that had developed that with Bolton Wanderers, with Sam Allardyce.
Okay.
And they really drove, Bolton were their flagship of, training data and coaching data, coaching sessions and videoing sessions, and really, as I said, pioneers in that. And at the time, as I said, a friend of mine, he was speaking with the head of sports science at Blackburn Rovers, Mark Howard, and just thankfully was able to hand my CV and say, this guy, because I had been doing a little bit of work with coaching data, this is CV. So I ticked a few boxes that they needed. At the time, the sports science department was in transition. So a lot of the staff that had been there while Mark Hughes and Paul Linson were there had now left. And Sam had come in just 10 days before. I think Sam took over just before Christmas, 18th of December. And I came in on the 1st of January. So it was a big transition of staff, and I thankfully just got in the door before as that reshaping of the department was taking place. So I ticked a lot of the boxes: ex-player, mature student, which he needed, because he needed someone that could deliver on the pitch. My UEFA B license that I had, and that was basically what got me the job. So I pretty much straight away was it's been the first week or two, being getting my feet under the table and getting a feel for the club, and then it was like, go with the assistant strength and conditioning coach and do the reserves. And I think I took one session with the assistant. He's basically, because Derek, you're a reserve team fitness coach now, just go and work with him. Which got my connection with Ian Brunskill, who 10 years later is the guy I'm working with in China. So it's kind of mad in football that way, that you'd start off, being introduced to a reserve team fitness coach from Liverpool, and 10 years later we're still working together, So it was as simple as that. Just big believer in right place, right time. I went to uni with a lot of very, very good sports scientists, better than me, guys that, but just didn't get the break, that I got. And then, like in more so this industry, because it's so cutthroat and it's so, the universities more and more churning out graduates that are willing to work. I won't go down this rabbit hole of saying it, but the pay grade is like at certain clubs, in the way they abuse the co-op system and the placement system. But that's just the nature of our business, and it's very hard to stay in it at that elite level, because there's always someone chasing after your job, and willing to do it for less, which ultimately, from a business point of view, clubs want to work as cheaply as they possibly can.
There's a friend of mine, he's a computer programmer, so completely separate from any of that kind of that kind of work. But he was telling me he was looking at jobs for Man United, and they just pay very badly, because people are willing to work for Man United for cheap because it's Man United. So that's the economic kind of reality of the situation. What was your reputation, or what was your how did you perceive Sam Allardyce before you headed over to Blackburn? What did you think of him?
I suppose I definitely would have been influenced by the media. As you get older and you start experiencing stuff, you realize that sometimes what you're told, by the media is, to sell papers and, to create sensationalized stuff. And that, like in the last 10 years, got even worse. But at the time, I remember sitting with Sam in Aintree, and he took us to Aintree for a race meet, and I just said it to him, as you do after a couple of beers. Sam, where did the name of long ball football of Bolton come from? Because when you list out the names, it's Campo, it's Okocha, it's Jufi, it's fucking, you listed off Hero. You're talking about quality footballers, and he said he put a lot of it down to Arsene Wenger and Benitez, where they basically was just obsessed, when they come to the Reebok and they get results. And of course, look, come here, you can't take away from the fact they were putting throw-ins into the box, and Kevin Davis was probably, roughing people up. But they did still play some decent football, and how could you not with those players, And he said to me, they just liked it. I mean, they liked Wenger and they liked Benitez, and they just liked to get that. That was a good story. That was an angle, and it's something that it's always stuck with him now. That said, Sam, if you listen to him on TalkSport or whenever he speaks, very pragmatic about the game. He's all about, okay, you want to play a certain style, but if you don't have the players, this idea of that Pep Guardiola would have a Stoke or, a Bolton or back playing out from the back, you wouldn't, because it just, they just concede goals. They're conceding goals doing it at Man City and the best players in the world. So Sam just feels that at times some coaches out there, get into this idea of a style of football and, comparing themselves to other managers. And he just feels ultimately you want to win games. And sometimes you get dealt a hand as a poker player, this, that sometimes you get a hand and you just have to do the best that you've got with it. Like, everyone wants 4 aces, but, but sometimes if you don't, you've got to bluff and you've got to try and get yourself to the best way you can to win the hand. And I think Sam is very good at that. He's very good with his staff and players. I mean, remember Keith Andrews just said, Sam, easily best manager ever played for. Players loved him. We got Michel Salgado. He was trying to get Raúl to Blackburn. He was telling Raúl, it's brilliant. They were living in Manchester. They weren't living in Blackburn. They were living in Manchester. So it was like, and it was very close. The issue with it was the salary that he would have had to come on. But like Michel, it's like he was brilliant. His first ever game for us was a reserve game at Blackburn, and it basically, so he hasn't played for a while. And he rocks up when I think Real Madrid, playing in Morecambe or something like that. Some low league, non-league grounds where we used to play our games. He rocked up. He's like all up for this game. They were saying to try and take him off at halftime. No, give me another 15 minutes. Let me play 60. But what a professional! You can see, whatever, again, saying about the media, whatever people show of the bling that goes with football, the top players are unbelievable to work with. And he was one of those. You just, you can see why he played for Real Madrid, and he brought that attitude, whether he was playing a game, whether he was in a 5-a-side in training, or whether he was doing a reserve game, get his fitness back up, or obviously playing in the Bernabeu. He was just right at it. And I said, one of those guys I look back at and said, geez, I worked with Michel Salgado. That was pretty cool.
He's I think he's still is he married to the president's daughter or something there? He's the serious player. I remember kind of right around when I started to watch football, it's rare that kind of a right back would grab your imagination, but you could just tell he was, like all good kind of fullbacks, I think, just an absolute pro, very well rounded, very good at everything. Working with guys like that is definitely something you have to be happy about.
Yeah, because for his birthday one day he came into Ewood, and he'd spoken privately with the chef, and he did this big tapas Spanish day for his birthday. I need a load of Spanish cider. So the players aren't going to drink at the training of it. Michel didn't care that, so he's having his Spanish cider for his birthday, telling us that this is actually quite common in Spain, where they might have a drink now. I'm not saying they get drunk before a game, but if they were having lunch, they might have a glass of wine. This was like 10 years ago, whether they still do it now. But he basically just sat down in front of like Sam, Steve Keane was coach there, Neil McDonald, Bobby Mims, coaching staff, and we were there like, you know, kind of, can we sit in on this? And it's like, yeah. Like every staff member that was there, like literally from, you know, the kit man to the boot lad, everyone just sat down and just listened to Michel sit in front of us, telling us stories about Real Madrid, and it was just like you know, saying about great moments in football. That was one of my best days in football, because it was just like, you know, maybe when we get off here, I'll tell you some of the stories, but yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with Allardyce, like my opinion of Allardyce is definitely, I think he's the most underrated manager in the world. That's might be a strong opinion, but I think this reputation of being kind of, you know, a pint of wine, caveman, long ball kind of is I think it's ridiculous. I think as you said, it's pragmatic. It's you know, you make the best of what you have. He's a big proponent of kind of statistical analysis and sports science. Was there anything he did on the sports science side of things that was contrary to the norm?
You know what he did that I found interesting was that he listened to every idea. You know, I actually don't know whatever happened to him, but an Irish company arrived over one weekend with this big, massive, contraption of basically, you know, that tennis machine that bounced the balls out to you?
Yeah.
It was along the lines of that, but with goals. And it's pinged the ball to certain areas, and it was programmed for the ball to land in certain areas. And it was kind of like what we do. It's like when you run a football session, you're just pinging balls out to the striker, he takes it down, he shoots. This was basically taking the manpower out of it, but then statistically breaking it down to how long it's taking the player to get a shot off, you know, where the shots are going and his accuracy and all these different things. But Sam was like, yeah, come over. Boys came over and they looked at them and they were there for the weekend, and get a look at it. Look, I don't know what the money the company would charge for. He wasn't interested. He left them in the door. No one else was leaving him in the door. I was speaking to the lads. They're asking every club. This other kid arrived in with a very cheap smart speed, you know, the timing gates. He'd come up with a very cheap version of that, which was basically like a touchpad. Touch the pad back. And he was the kid, like he was a young, you know, entrepreneur, had come up with this idea of giving the market and schools and PE teachers a cheaper version of speed gates, still allow kids that competitiveness of touch the marker, touch the next marker. You did that in 5.8 seconds. And very clever, cheap piece of equipment. He got in the door. We'd have to entertain him. Not entertain him is the wrong word, but we'd be the ones that would vet him of sorts. And my boss then would say, well, okay, this is a clever idea. And we did. We bought some of the units off him. But the kid again was telling me that none of the clubs, he said he was applying just to come in and speak to him. No Premier League came to let him come in, except Blackburn Rovers. No championship teams. He was literally writing off his idea that he's not going to get a football club to endorse this or to look at it. And that for me was the part of Sam that, you know, just really open to ideas and whatever, whatever new innovation was out there. We had, I see stuff with Dave Brailsford, and, you know, I mean, they talk about sleeping coaches and hear a lot about that now in the last few years. 2010, Sam Allardyce had an issue with a couple of the players coming in, like proper groggy, and he had a sleep coach coming in. And he gave us a talk and basically speaking about that circadian rhythm, that 90 minutes, a lot of stuff that's probably much more common knowledge now, where people speak about more regularly. You know, mattresses, pillows, vetting hotels. Sam was, you know, already going, that's what we need to do with the players. You know, 4 or 5 years later, Team Sky, and they're speaking about it, and Dave Brailsford is some sort of genius. I'm like, I was in a meeting when Sam was going on about the importance of sleep. This guy's writing books about it in 2020 and selling bestsellers, like, you know. And you said that's the stuff that the people didn't see, because there was the caricature was much better. Like when I arrived here's one for you. When I arrived, first day in at work, Sam arrives in, and as you could imagine, he's just a presence, like, and I'm, you know, I say, like, it was top players, you know, Chrissy Samba and Two Guy and Rock Santa Cruz, and I'd met them, and you're not, you know, kind of like, okay, they're footballers, but then Sam walks in, he's standing above you, like, and you're like, geez. So obviously from Ireland, Limerick, I managed there. I said, I know you did. And but he reeled off a few names, Diamond Man, and he was asking me about Mike Curley, funny enough, and told me a great story. I heard Tommy speaking during the week, and the one thing I was fine with Mike, people call Mike about the great manager he is and coach, and and I definitely the period we had around 2004 was probably my best year in football. 15 goals in League of Ireland, a lot of it was down to the work that Mike had done with me. But Sam was telling me that Joe Royle was trying to sign him at City, and he'd looked at him and they were very, very close to taking Mike to Man City at the time. And didn't know why it fell through, but I was like, but it was just that one where it was like, wow, I mean, that would have been probably, I don't know, 20 years late. What is it? It was from 1990 he was there, so that's 20 years later. He's still reeling off names of guys that were at the club, and and obviously could remember them as players as well, and so he had that as well, that he remembered Limerick, and he remembered it. It's not, sometimes when you see these pieces in the paper that people think, oh, they're just saying that now because he didn't have to tell me about Mike or have a chat with me about it. That's just naturally you remember that stuff, and naturally you look back on it fondly, which I think probably stood to me as well a little bit at Blackburn, that I went in there kind of coming from a place that he knew and he recognised, and he recognised how hard working the people of Limerick were, and that. So, I think that's definitely stood to me.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't do any harm having that kind of connection. So he's definitely open to Joe. Like, he was one of the first ones to look at like the NFL and look at other sports to bring things in. So it's good to hear someone that's worked with him. Joe has a good kind of good perception of him after the fact, because, as I said, I think he's massively underrated. I think people see what he does and see what Joe, another kind of ugly football manager, does, and thinks it's the same thing. But I think it's not enough kind of credit is given. So on the Premier League match days, Derek, we all kind of, we watch them on TV, we see the managers, we see the players, anyone that's been to Premier League games, we see the buzz in the stadium, all that. What was it like for a non-playing staff member on Premier League days, going up to the stadium and all that? What was the buzz like?
It is a buzz. It's hard to describe. I suppose being the reserve team fitness coach allowed me to get the buzz without, like, you definitely become a supporter of the club, and supporter probably in what maybe some of your listeners might understand as sports in the club, you want them to win. It is like the biggest deal of the weekend, and maybe we don't get the lows, because I probably can compare this to when I went to Preston, and the lows of defeat were much greater, and that probably when I first went to Preston, we were in a relegation battle, so then defeats were massively, and then when we went into the second season, League One, the defeats, again, we were going for promotion, where we were up near the top of the table. For the first 8 games, I think we were second in the table at Preston, then we started losing, and then those lows are difficult, I have to say, and I suppose you know how high a high is when you know how low the low is,
Exactly.
So and that's the problem with it. But I just remember from that period, and as I said, you would have been in and around the dressing room, and in and around that octane, remember, this is brilliant. So it's Christmas time, and at Christmas, obviously, you've got your Christmas parties coming, and Benni McCarthy was carrying a bit of weight, and he was getting fined because his body fat's too high. So the boys goes to Sam, he's getting his management, unbelievable. So he's getting fined, and he goes to Sam, the money that Benny's paying, he's said that he'd like that money to go towards the Christmas party. It's like, all right, where do you want to go? Stockholm. All right, okay. Who we got that weekend? Liverpool. Get a result in Liverpool. It was at Ewood, but against Liverpool. Get a result, i.e. a draw or a win. You can go. So, the players have chartered a flight from Blackpool to Stockholm for the weekend. I'm on this trip as well, by the way, so you can imagine how much I'm cheering against Liverpool, who I supported as a kid, and got a draw. And I swear to God, it was like winning the FA Cup. We were going to Stockholm. And but that was Sam's management. He just could get that extra bit, twofold. One, a player's getting fined, and he's allowed the players to access that pool of money. And two, giving them that reward. And he obviously realised a level of achievability about it. But and he did that. We went again. Saying psychology of the game, and the getting players up. He just had that really good knack of knowing what the players wanted. Probably, from being a player, he knew what a player wanted, but then also knowing the buttons to push, and no one crossed him. No, you mean, and why would you? But there was a lot of big characters in that dressing room. A lot of good pros, a lot of captains. People who captains of their country.
Exactly.
That was a decent
historically he's brought in obviously a lot of big, that's kind of what he's known for, that Bolton team at Blackburn, a lot of big name guys that have played at a high level. So I think
and maybe on the wrong side of their careers to a certain extent. Certainly at Bolton he had a little bit of that where he got a few guys, or Anelka where he rejuvenated his career. Jufy, who'd had a bad time at Liverpool, came and he got a bit more out of him. He brought Jufy to Blackburn. We're like, oh, what the hell, he's bringing Jufy? But Jufy is such a character. I hate when I see the crap that he does with Carragher and Gerrard. Just the guy that I played two-touch with or head tennis with, and you'd have a laugh at him, but he just, he just says silly things at times, But if you want to, again, saying about the stats, Sam knew that, he's got big Ryan Nelson, big Chrissy Samba. He's got Pedersen who whip a ball into the box. So what's he do? He signs Jufy because he knows Jufy will just get the ball on the wing, skip past someone, get taken down. Good. No, but the ball in the box. So, and I know the problem is, that's not pure enough for people. People think that's too, so I think that's where people fall down.
I think you have to ask yourself, Joe, what's your best chance of winning the game? What's the best chance of winning results? I'll put it another way. So what would you rather he do there, Joe? Play it out from the back, not take advantage of a great set piece player? Joe, what do you want to do there? It's if he's building a team with a certain strategy in mind, that's fine. But you have to give yourself the best chance. And I think understanding the input and the output is so important. I think a lot of managers today think, they want to play a certain way, but the players they're getting in don't fit that way. The whole, it doesn't add up. So you just have to, you have to maximize what you have, I think.
Yeah. And it's the level you're at. If there's a youth coach listening to me here now and they're saying that Sam Allardyce says, and I'm the biggest purist of wanting to play football. My teams, when I have done a bit of coaching, as in being the manager here at Kilmallock, I always just wanted the lads to play out from the back and play football. But Ian Brunskill, the reserve team manager, was Liverpool rare in the Liverpool way, being more at their academy through all the different age groups. And one of his early conversations with Sam was, do you want me to mirror the first team, be a little bit? And he goes, God, no. He said, come here, getting a young player to put the ball into the channel, they should be able to do that. I want to see him be able to play. And, he allowed Ian that opportunity for players to try and play and try and express themselves. And, Phil Jones was brought up into the squad. The young Irish lad, Aaron Doran, who is with Inverness now, very unlucky, burst onto the scene. Just at the end of the season, I think he played on the wing against Liverpool, City and Chelsea, with his 3 first Premier League games. And on the last training session, he dislocated his shoulder. He just never. He then subsequently missed the pre-season and never really got back into the flow of things. He just and look, come here, the kids. He's on the living out of football, and I think if you're on the living out of the game, you've done well. And of course you want to earn that to hire him. But if you can say you're a professional footballer, and as I said, make your living out of it, you've done well.
I think yeah, so much has to go right for you that you said if you can make a living, that's it's an achievement. You know, there's a lot of luck, a lot of variance in this game. So yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say your time with Blackburn and Preston? What would you say is the biggest thing you learned in that period?
I suppose, yeah, that's I mean, you're learning every day, like all the time. You're learning. I was lucky enough that I had, Mark Howard and Adrian Lamb, who I'm now working with again. Well, Adrian I'm working with again with China, but I think it's just being, comfortable with the fact that A, you don't know everything, first and foremost, and B, just trying to be a sponge around everyone that's there. And I worked, a guy called David Joyce, he's an Aussie. And I remember after I leaving Preston, and this is probably the biggest thing I learned, funny enough, it's when I've left both the jobs. And a guy that I used to be in the restaurant bar that we used to be in, and he'd asked me to give a handout with some Blackburn rugby team. And I hadn't done any real rugby, but I was kind of made a joke with Dave about, been working in the Premier League, what's he doing asking me to coach kids? And Dave, he just shook his head. He said, where are you working now? I said, no, I'm just waiting, whatever. I was doing a little bit with college. And he said, Derek, always be coaching, no matter who it is. Because once you're coaching, you're always learning. And I think that's the only, or not the only, but it's one of the biggest things I've carried through. And that's probably the reason why I come home. I'm on to the boys at Kamal going, can I come up and give you a hand with the training? Because it's a skill, you know what I mean? Coaching is a skill, and it's one that if you haven't done, the higher I go up, the higher levels I go up, the more I realise that if I'm not coaching for a while, that you feel yourself just being a little bit rusty in the way you speak to the players, the way your own personal behaviours around them, and the way the smoothness of the exercises you're doing. They can just get a little bit, a little bit tardy, and at the highest level, they need to be spot on. So doing those little sessions back at the field with the Kamalik lads just keeps me tipping over on those periods. I do come home and I join in and train as well, just to annoy him. So there's a little bit of selfishness in that. The kid in me that still thinks he's 20 years of age playing football is still there, apart from the aches and pains that I feel the following morning, like so.
Yeah, great advice. Absolutely excellent advice, I think. So after the time with Preston, you returned to Limerick, start working with in the League of Ireland with your home club Limerick FC. What was it like coming back to Ireland and working with Stuart Taylor and Limerick FC?
Yeah, so I had I'd done my masters in England. So after finishing with Preston, I went working for a college. So it's like a sport and agricultural college in Preston called Myesco. And I was working up there part-time. And when I was there, the head of the sports department said, you can do your masters through us here because you're an employee of the college. You can do your masters through UCLan, University of Central Lancashire. Yeah. And I was thinking, okay, all right, I'm in between jobs. It's a good time, to maybe embark on doing a master's. Now, it hadn't been on my wish list, but it kind of made sense, particularly, the cost of it was halved and blah, blah, blah. So I did that. So when I finished my master's in December, my girlfriend, Aoife, had moved home. She'd been working in horses over there. She ran a stable yard, and she wanted to come home. And I was like, give it another go. I just couldn't get work. A few different things had kind of come up a little bit. There's one down in Tottenham, we were saying earlier about salaries at their academy level, but just not possible. I mean, you can't live in London on 18 grand a year, like so. Just one weekend. She'd been over for a couple of weeks visiting, and I just said, let's go. And we literally just packed up the car literally in the space of maybe 5 days, and just went home. So I kind of arrived home to nothing. And then again, thankfully, a few lads that have been in, Tommy Barrett, Declan Farmer, have been in on the Limerick FC thing, and kind of basically just said it to Stuart Taylor, maybe, when the sports scientist had been there before me, Kelvin Harold had left. So there was a kind of, again, saying about luck, there was a position kind of there. So went in and met with him, and Stuart took us on, which was, I was really excited to go back to the club at the time. There was a lot of talk, a lot of really positive talk about where the club was going. They were trying to do it at academy level, what they were looking to do with building their own training ground and going back into the Markets field. Could visibly see the quality of players were there, and it was just like, geez, I can't believe this isn't the football club that I played for. This is, a whole new franchise and a whole new, as I said, team and club. And, starting off, it was great, but it was around then, funnily enough, the rumbling started to happen. Little things that in hindsight now, it was like, oh yeah, that was kind of starting around there, but wasn't really coming. It was constantly being brushed under the carpet, probably isn't the right word, but it was certainly it wasn't being shown to the public. And, I know, people like Eddie Hickey, who'd been at the club for a while, could maybe have seen a little bit of a turn there. So that was disappointing. We were playing in Thomond Park, and we were, as I said, supposed to be going back to the home of football in the Markets field. I said the quality of player was there. Even when Stuart left, Martin Russell came in, was really excited with Martin coming in. But, a lot of players then, Rory Gaffney left, and Craigie Curran, who went on, and he's in Scotland now with Ross. He was a good player, in fairness to him. C.V. Folan left. Just a lot of players. Barry Ryan in goals. Geez, unbelievable goalkeeper. It was easy another couple of seasons in Barry, for where we were. Whatever about saying that you replace Barry because, we're going to win the league. But we weren't going to win the league. We needed, Barry, as I said, was obviously, I don't know what he was, but as I said, as far as I could see at the time, I thought there was a couple of more years in him. Some big characters and big players left, and we just never replaced them. The squad got younger and younger, and even though that period with Martin, where he got us to the League Cup final, or the team got us to the League Cup final, that was excellent. But we'd had a terrible run in the relegation. That really had, the year before with the relegation team was just horrible. Gee, that was the craziest season, I say, Limerick supporters have ever put down. To have that, saying lows and highs and peaks and troughs, to go on that run of losing games, to go on that run of winning games, and then that night above in Finn Harps to lose it the way we did it. I mean, I just couldn't see it. I couldn't, I know my mate Steve O'Flynn, accused me of being, we were being complacent. There was no complacency within the team, but we'd scored every time we played. I couldn't see us going to Ballybuffet and not score. And if we score, we win. Even after again, that's it. And we had chances, and then we made mistakes. We got punished for the first goal, terrible defending, a bit of a mix-up, and the goal with the last kick of the game, effectively. That was tough. And then the following season, Pat backs the team, and we walked the first division. That was another strange experience. You just literally turn it up and you win, and we're by far the best team. We're playing the best football, and that the best opportunity we had was to kind of do it at the cup to show the rest of the country how well we were doing. And again, get all the way to the final. I think Vinny has a chance to put us 2-0 up, and keeper saves, and then they go down the other end, and then the steamrolled us in the last 20 minutes. The whole game kind of just flipped on its head. But you'd often wonder, I look back to moments like that and go, if we had won the League Cup, the crowd that was there speaking to people afterwards, saying earlier about the Premier League, the occasion, that was an occasion. Yeah, great atmosphere. The weather was beautiful. The Blue Army were in full voice. It was just a great night. Just all it needed was us to win. Sadly, we did. So that's definitely up there as one of the lows in the game that I've had.
It's it was an incredible period. Just in kind of Limerick FC's history, as you said, the the season of not winning a game for, I don't know, I'd say 2/3 of the way through the season, a
Yeah.
couple of points on the board, then winning nearly every game, then it all coming down to that one kind of make or break tie against Finn Harps. And I remember watched the first leg in the Markets Field, and taking a 1-0 win, you're still kind of thinking you don't want to be leaving all this up to chance, in one game. And then we had a lot of, we're listening on the radio, texting people then in the second leg, and when they fucking conceded, it was just you're like, Jesus Christ, because it really felt like very rarely experienced that with Limerick FC, where it really felt like the whole city was following along, and then was just like, oh fuck. And then to come back with the next season was just was such a strange showing up, like, just as you said, winning games at will. It was such a funny kind of thing, such a bizarre kind of few seasons there.
Watch colours, Gary Spain, like, I'm sure he's just there taking these notes, writing, when he writes the history of Limerick FC this 10 years. Like, if Hollywood tried to make a movie out of it, you'd be like, yeah, that's far-fetched. You know what I mean? It has all that kind of corny, kind of like, all of a sudden he was out winning every game. But yeah, that's sadly Limerick FC, and it's, where it is at the moment now is probably the most depressing it's ever been. Even in the times when I was there, and we were having to drive. Tommy Lynch with periods where we drive to games. Tommy would take, want to a better phrase, was bordering on junior B level stuff, where the manager's carrying 4 players. But it was that. But at least we were getting a team on the pitch. We were being competitive. We were representing, the city and at a national level, which I think is so important for such a big city and such a big footballing city, that we can't seem to get that part of it right. The interest is there. The participation rates are there, but just, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I know you were speaking with Tommy a couple of weeks back about it, and I think he's, as Limerick through and through as you can get, like, and he's, I think a little bit flummoxed as well on why we're not producing. We don't have enough Premier League players. We don't have enough of players playing in England. We're not getting enough over there to come back and rejoin Limerick. Cork have done that. Players with Cork and in Dublin, they've gone away, and maybe, I remember Steve O'Flynn when he came back to us. Steve came back via Cork. He came back from Wimbledon to Cork, and then we got him, and Noel Connor brought him down. But I remember when Steve came in, you could see that this guy had been training every day. Probably the first time I'd been training with a guy that proper pinged the ball and struck it where you went, oh yeah, kind of put the rest of us to shame, kind of going, he's been a professional. He's been training every day. His demands on us, his demands in training, his demands on coaches. It was like, all right, okay, this is the level. And so you need that. We need that. We need people. We need some, the lads that have gone over and come here. I hope Paddy finishes over in England. But if a Paddy O'Connor did come back and the club was in a position where they could offer him, he would bring massive humanity, be a captain. He's a leader. He dragged people with him to it. But, we don't even have a club for him to play for now. If that happened, I'm not saying he would or I want him to, but we should be in a position to offer, those players coming back. Barry Cotter, who came through the academy system as well, they should be able to come back and, a club to be there for them, that they can bring back their experience and it improve the team and improve the club and, kind of first and foremost, get us back into the Premier. First of all, get the team, but then get that team back in the Premier, because when it was there, there was some good crowds and some good interest there,
I think even what you touched on at the very start, saying that the young fella like yourself getting the opportunity to, you said Limerick were struggling at the time and you got an opportunity, but I think that's part of the function of a club like Limerick. You want to be able to give good young local talent the opportunity to play at a decent level, and as I said, even if Limerick aren't setting the world alight, I think it's so important. You need that platform for players, and as you said, why don't we? Why? It's very frustrating, as a Limerick person, when you're looking around you're looking at Waterford, you're looking at Galway, you're looking at places. No reason why Limerick can't be, producing the players these places are producing, and I said the question is why. So it's trying to figure out the answer to that is difficult though.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, So
Yeah.
until we get that in place, but look, there was so much good work being done with the club at the time. The academy system was looking good. Obviously, Tommy was doing brilliant work at that level, and a lot of those players he was able to take up to the first team, and that's what it should have been. We should have had that pathway. I mean, that for me is what football clubs really, as you've touched on, is creating that pathway for good young players to come through and show off their skills, rather than, this is no disrespect to junior football. That serves an unbelievable purpose as well. But it shouldn't be where our best players are playing, not our local, because it is difficult to play a League of Ireland and travel and integrate the country. I mean, if I was to think back on what was the hardest thing, it wasn't going training. Training is, you do that anyway. And playing alongside good players, you do that anyway. And looking after yourself, you do that anyway. I mean, you don't, obviously, I suppose I was still at that part of, but it was still, you probably still would have had your weekend. Maybe now you hear a lot of the lads, it wouldn't go out a whole pile. But, you were still, you were dedicated. But it was travelling. Jeez, it was before the motorways as well. Going to Dublin on a Friday and going through Kildare. I actually remember when I came back from England, because I hadn't done, obviously, them since probably 2006, 2007. And then, you're going to Dublin, it's like 2 hours or so, and it's like, this is easy, but, when you're trying to go and play, it just felt like an eternity traveling to these games, coming back.
And all these places.
Morning, morning on a Sunday, bloody hell, no wonder I wouldn't say no wonder, but it definitely must play in your mind of saying, my first contract with Limerick was probably 20 quid. Maybe went up to 50, 80 quid after a season or so. But it's not money that's kind of going, well, at least that pays for my car or pays. It's merely bordering on expenses is all you're getting.
Yeah.
But, I probably, if I'd come out of youth football and tried to sign locally with the junior teams, maybe I might have got a little bit better rewarded, But thankfully it wasn't about that. It was about trying to play. I came across a programme in Kilfin and Forest when they reopened the pitch around 1996, and they'd done a little player profile with me, and it had that one, like, what do you want to play football to the highest level? And I kind of think I did, and the League of Ireland was my level, I had a go at Galway and it didn't really work out there. I was down at Ward for 6 months when they were in the pair, and that didn't really work out. So I think I was probably an alright mid-table first division player, but that's still at a national level that, happy enough. As I said, some past players are kind of mentioning you in some of their teams, that you get you were one of the better players there. Take a little bit of pride in that, and I'm glad I did what I did. I don't have any FAI junior medals. I don't have, Munster junior medals, but I do have a Munster senior medal, and I don't really have any value in that other than that I know I did it and I played in those games. So I think that at times is a lot more than maybe, as I said, winning something that doesn't maybe have as much of value, or certainly doesn't have as much value to me. I'm sure there's lots of value to other people.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. As long as you're kind of happy with so all you can do is reach your own potential, and that's different for everyone. Says whatever that's the trouble is when you see guys, doing really well in whatever junior football or whatever it may be, and you think that they're not fulfilling their potential. I think that's where the shame kind of comes in. Where like, it's a pity that this guy, I've said it to 14, 15-year-old players that I've worked with before. When you were 20, 21, I don't want to see you scoring 30 goals a year in the junior Premier League. I want to see you, over at England making it with a club, because you want to, as you said, you want players to play at the highest level.
Yeah, but even that maybe Jamie, just not to disagree with you, because obviously going to England is, but I think maybe in Ireland where the League of Ireland hasn't got enough for that to be the stepping stone for people.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
we kind of have this idea that, we want to get all the way to the top rather than kind of going, well, if you can aim maybe for being a League of Ireland player. And I think the FAI were doing brilliant with that, with making the clubs have academies, making the first team be part of the next step in their journey. Like you look at, as I said, Paulie O'Connor, he could have went to a Leeds or Bradford from, youth football. But you know what? It'd be interesting to ask him, but it definitely stood to him to play, a year of men's football against, proper games down, you're down in Cove, and say about a wet night in Stoke. Try a wet night down in Cove. You know about what a wet night is like. So, I think we definitely, if we could, look, I say that with, I would have said similar stuff to you, like get to England. That's what I want to do, was get to England.
I suppose, I
know your sentiment. I know what you mean by it. But if the fields, I think it has moved on an awful lot. I know you Paul O'Donnell on when he came back from Liverpool, and he came back and played for Limerick for a while. But I said this a few moments ago, we just don't have that, like that. And naturally, I haven't made it as a professional footballer. Doesn't mean that I'm not a good footballer. It just means I haven't reached the level, which is an extremely high level. I can now come back and, whether there's a shame in it or whether people feel that it's below them or not worth it, or whether the game England does sour you. Like that is, we haven't touched it. We've touched on the glamour side of it. I don't have kids, but if I had a kid, would I like him to be a professional footballer? Only knowing the pathway they got to travel, you can't make that decision for any kid, but it's a tough road. When I first went over, I had to live in there was like an accommodation on site at Brockall. It was all the young pros lived there, and then myself and the performance analysis guy they gave us a dorm or a room there as well. Yeah, and I just thought it was a very tough environment. There was a lot of you got a lot of high, young pros, hormones right fit in, like competition every day in training, it is every day. You mean this idea that I'll turn up to them? No, coaches. I've seen players going from being the best player in the team, being talked about, to maybe go and train with the first team, to being not anywhere near it, to being, I won't name names on this, but I know two lads got caught in Dublin Airport on the way home from an Irish international game. Scouts on, says it to Sam, that's it, the boys, get them out the door. Don't want those characters around, they're no good for us. And that's in a blink, just wrong person seeing you wrong time. And it's 24/7, you always got to be at it. And then I won't say I saw bullying, but I saw you'd have to be a strong personality to deal with the jokes and the banter. And in any male group, there's a hierarchy of who's kingpin, who's one that's dominating this conversation, to the guy that's sitting in the corner listening to it, to the guy the piss has been taken out of him, and the good-looking guy, the ugly guy, the guy that gets all the birds, to the guy that can't. It's all this stuff goes on. Yeah. And it makes them the women. Like, the women is ridiculous, particularly when they're at a club like Blackburn, where I saw. It's like, you got these girls, they just think being with these guys is the best. You can't differentiate between the real and the fake. Or this girl likes me because she fancies me, or she thinks I've got a good personality. Ultimately, they're a footballer, so they've got that always with them. And I'm sure a lot of them, locally now, I'm sure a lot of the hurlers are experiencing that as well, and the rugby players, and they're getting that. When you get that level of fame, that all of a sudden, it's just when you don't know, not just say girls, but even friends around you, are they agreeing with me because I play sport, or are they agreeing with me because just of who I, because they actually agree with me? And I think that's, when you're 16, 17, they're very difficult decisions to make, like, and much more, even at when you get older, they're difficult decisions to make. Now, you're a kid and, very impressionable.
Yeah. So I suppose that's definitely that's where the kind of the League of Ireland can come in, and for somewhere like Limerick giving a different option to these young fellas, as you said. You can only imagine, 16, 17, living in these environments. It is so competitive. I think when you're playing with your kind of local club or whatever, if it's an hour drive from your family home or whatever, it surely must improve that kind of that period of learning your trade a bit without having to just become a man so quickly, or without having to just grow up another way so quickly. It gives you a bit more leeway, I think.
Yeah, look, the player that arguably, and I know again he's much maligned now, Phil Jones. I think he probably didn't kick on the way we thought he might have. But he lived at home with his parents when he was playing. He was playing those games against Chelsea, and he's smashing into Frank Lampard. And he'd finish that game and go home to his parents. I mean, that's a great grounding. He'd lovely parents and people that really, they were at all these games or whatever. But I mean, that's a bit different to, say, one of the Irish lads that has a great game and he goes home and it's like, well, what do I do? There's no one to say, don't go out drinking, don't, go to a party with, whatever, don't go gambling or go to the bookies. You've got someone that's looking after, helping you look after your finances and helping you look after the way you behave. Because as I said, what's that saying about, you've been wasted on the young, but like these kids, they just don't realise, I said I didn't value everything that I was doing in 2010 was when I was 30. We're asking 16, 17-year-olds to realise what they've got and the opportunities they've got. It's very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as your time with Limerick, comes to an end, and you get this opportunity in the Middle East, in Jordan. I suppose firstly that came about through one of your former Blackburn colleagues.
Yeah, the reserve team coach Ian. It was a weird one. It was like Thursday morning. I got a LinkedIn message. Yeah. From Ian, basically. You kind of still in bed, and your phone beeps, and you're like, who's texting me at, whatever, 7:30 in the morning, and who's, you see who it is, and you read through the message, and you read through, the detail of the contract. And at the time, I was looking after the Limerick under-17s. Joe had come in at the first team, and I gone looking after the under-17s. When, like I said, at the time, I was really enjoying being with the first team. I was enjoying working with Martin. But when Pat and Kieran said that basically, they want to bring in someone else, I kind of understood it in many respects. Once you've been sacked once in football, any other sacking or any other demotion or any other moving you on or not renewing your contract, whatever way you want to phrase it, it doesn't really bother you because that's the game. Everyone around you is getting released or. So when it happened, then Kieran said, "Well, Derek, would you like to do 17s?" And Martin was eager for me to stay within the club, and Willie was there as the academy manager, and I was delighted to do that because I suppose, come back to me, you asked me about doing sports science. I kind of went back with the whole thing of using it as a way of improving my ability to coach and having a better understanding of the body. I didn't necessarily see it as me going down the route of being the fitness. So I kind of thought it'd be the football coach that had a sports science degree rather than being a sports scientist that has a UFB license. So I was really enjoying that with the 17s. And then I said this message came. So, obviously first conversation is with your girlfriend going, that Middle East, where you hear that on the news, not the good news, the bad news. They want me to go out and work with the under-23 AFC Jordan team. Ian was there, and the fitness coach they had left, and that basically it's a short-term contract, probably going to be 6 weeks as we lead into the. It started off 4 weeks, and then as the conversations on with the 14 weeks as we prepare for this tournament in Palestine, of all places. Okay. And that's an amazing thing. We were based in Bethlehem. The tournament was on. So we anyway spoke with Willie. Willie agreed. He said, "Fine. What we'll do is we'll get Gary Manning, who was my assistant there. He'll take the team, and basically when you come back, you could take it over." So it was only short term. But then after coming back, it got extended because we qualified for the AFC Championships in China in January 2019, yeah. And so then it just didn't really work with Limerick FC with me basically. Like, I can't be just in and out of the team. So Gary went on and, did really well taking that team. So went and we had qualified for the tournament out in China. Very difficult. Palestine, geez, that was some experience. We had been made aware that the day of Palestine was one of the teams we were playing, and we had been made aware that on a Friday there's an issue with the Israel army, and that basically there's an issue with the mosque being closed, and there could be a little bit of a disturbances out in the street. So we're like, so have breakfast, and they're kind of telling us that within the hotel, just don't be out in the streets. You'll be aware they're praying and chanting, whatever. So I'm out on my balcony looking out onto this bird's eye view. This is great, legs crossed, there's water, watching away, and they're chanting, and it's like kind of border like on a football chant. And the lads were translating it something along the lines of, basically, we shall not be moved, kind of, if you use the word football chant. But anyway, that all of a sudden, gates of the wall that surround Bethlehem and Jerusalem are separated. They open. Tanks start coming down the street. Water cannons start going off. Plastic bullets are being fired. There's tear gas going through the air. It's like, I've actually on my phone, I've still got some video of like this tear gas going through. Thousands of people scattering all over the street. I have to admit, like on the video, I'm like jumping under behind the balcony, go, what the hell just happened there? Yeah, that went on for the entire day. So we didn't even know if the game was going to go ahead. Like all of Jordan takes in an awful lot of refugees from Palestine, and we subsequently were told that like there was a staff of 30 players and so on, and obviously myself and Ian, obviously not being Muslim, but the rest of 23 of the 28 were of Palestine descent. So basically, at some point, either a grandfather or a father had been from Palestine and they crossed the border into Jordan. And so it was really emotional. And again, learning stuff, you probably didn't realize how emotional that really was for the players, because, the players, we won't go into the politics of it, but you're there watching your people, getting shot at and that. So we went to play the game. We go 2-0 up, and we're like, this is really good. And unbeknownst to us, the players come out and they do some symbol on the side of the pitch that is basically showing solidarity to the Palestinian people. And there's a bit of an applause. The Palestinian people got up and they clapped. Like, all right, geez, 2-0 up, of course. And then gave away 3 of the worst goals. Just terrible, just criminal. Having missed some great chances. We ended up losing that game, going into the final game, needing to win it by a certain amount of goals to where potentially goal difference was going to matter. So Wi-Fi is terrible. The games are going on at the same time. So we kind of know we're 2-0 up, but we don't know if we need to score 3 and 4. So it's a really difficult situation. We stick or twist. Do we go for more goals? Are we happy? So I'm trying to get up to our video guy who's has the tables and the games as they're going ahead, and we're thinking, okay, I think 2-0 will do us. I have the terrible of having to come down to the manager, Ian, and say to him, 2-0's enough, with me knowing that the information is a little bit behind because of Wi-Fi and the scores coming in and whatever. But as it happened, 1-0 would have did us. Did it for us. But I have to admit now, with about 5 minutes to go in the game, and Ian is going to me, Derek, do we need more goals? And I'm going, no, 2-0's enough. And there's a part of me go, he's going to kill me. He'll kill me with that wrong information. So we go to China, and then again in China, you play against Saudi Arabia. It's weird because I was speaking with my brother about it, and it was funny because he goes, I mentioned some of the teams, Oman and Saudi Arabia, and you think, oh, you beat them. And it's like, no, they all see Jordan as being the easier of the teams. We're not, king. But we had a disappointing enough tournament. I finished third in the third or fourth teams, and when we came back. So my contract was always going to finish in January, but Ian's still had another, I think, 18 months to go in it. But because that team hadn't done well at that tournament, they didn't really have a whole pile of games or tournaments happening over the next 8 or 9 months. So he effectively would have been employed to do kind of nothing. There was no real team to look after. So they came to me, they both said, well, look, we'd be happy for you to leave. He was happy to leave. It kind of ran his course with the group over 2 years. So we came back, so we're out of work. We're thinking, okay, had saved a little bit of money from it. And it's kind of, patient enough, kind of thinking not much. And then obviously, I guess to February, there's not a whole pile doing. And then out of the blue, Ian was due to go to Hong Kong to take over their academy. And he got a phone call about this project that Shanghai SIPG were doing in England. And they were going to come to England for a period of time and training at St. George's Park, playing against different teams. Would we like to be part of it? So again, I kind of always live off the mantra of improv comedy. I don't know if you ever heard this, but it's like where you always got to say yes. You got to agree to everything, otherwise it falls. It can't progress. So if no matter how ridiculous the idea is, you got to be I'll do that. So when Ian said that, I can work for Shanghai SIPG. So we moved on to that then, and that was again another great experience. Lived in St. George's Park, home of English football for those who may not know, and had about 10 weeks there in England, and then we went from there over to Shanghai for 4 weeks, which culminated in us playing kind of a little mini tournament. They tried to put emphasis on the tournament as like a trial for the country to get all the best players together. So what they did was, let's have a tournament. There's a cup. There's televised, and it is something to show off all the best underage players. But it's really just a friendly tournament, kind of a selection process of sorts. But we finished second. We lost to the actual national team. They I would say it was probably expected. This was the best players of the country versus Shanghai, and then there was two other province teams that were there. So that was again another unbelievable experience, and lived in Shanghai for a while, and got to queue for 15 minutes outside Starbucks. At the moment people are queuing, like getting to Starbucks in Shanghai is the biggest one in the world. It is like Willy Wonka factory. It is ridiculous. Like 15 minutes of a queue to go and get an overpriced coffee. I never thought I'd do that, but that was, that was good.
The Shanghai. So the thing in St. George's Park, that was were the players from the Shanghai club working? They were all working in England, training in England.
Yeah, so they basically just brought the squad of 30 players over to England, and we just played a load of games. Didn't do a lot of training, but played an awful lot of games. Played against, Everton and we kind of tried to build it up. They were kind of like, we'll come over and play Man City, and we were like, maybe not Man City. You do know Man City. It doesn't matter what age group. This is like, a very, very high level of player. So, we just brought them home. We got loads of games, and it was a great experience. We were followed around by Transworld Sport cameras were with us the whole time, video and stuff, and doing interviews. So I get that on YouTube, Shanghai SIPG in England. So that was good. They did like these. I don't know if you remember Transworld Sport, but they used to do like these little 3-minute segments. I remember as a kid watching them on Eurosport or whatever coming on, and you'd be like, all these different stories, and it was I got to be part of one of them. So
I'll that's available. Is that available on YouTube? You said?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. SIPG in England or SIPG's Transworld Sport will probably give you the link.
I'll find the link and I'll put it in the description. I'll save everyone the hassle. I'll find it and I'll link it.
There's a lot to get out of it, other than just gives you an idea of what they did and the story, what they were trying to do. Football's they're massive, trying to get the game going, and I'm sure that they're going to try and get a World Cup in the next couple of, probably 2030. Is that the next World Cup? 2030? Yeah. 32, is
we'll
it?
see what happens with
But
Qatar.
yeah,
Now.
well, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We should be able to know that, but no, yeah,
So
depends on when we can get it on.
yeah, so the club it's playing in the Chinese Super League. They, just for people that mightn't be aware, there's players like Hulk was there, Oscar was there, Marko Arnautovic moved there since. I'm not sure, he might have been a bit after you, but like in Europe we tend to associate football clubs with history and tradition and all that, whereas a lot of these clubs are very new. What was the culture like, kind of just around the club itself, around the people in it? What did they think football was? Did they have a different mentality to a lot of Europeans?
Yeah, look, I think the issue with anyone that's, say, you spoke about culture. Only time can create culture. Like, what I mean, you can't buy that or invent it, and you try. And I mean, the supporters are like fanatical. You know what I mean? They've just got this stand, or the fans are constantly going. And again, they probably look to Argentina and look to Spain and England. They see these Germany, seeing these fans, and that's the way they do. And they kind of go, okay, that's a way of supporting your team. And then you get the best player. You get best players. You mean Oscar? Yeah, of course. Then the Premier League and Hulk, great players. But it's the catch-up game is the issue. And speaking with Conor Nestor, who's in Cambodia, I think he had to articulate it quite well when he said about generations of players. So that, like, speaking about first generation, second generation, third generation, and the idea is that you get a group of players, say, that are being coached really well, in really good structures, really good professional. They have to get to the end of their career, then to pass on that information onto the next group of players. So it's the second generation. And, rightly so, he sent 2-3 generations of people to get that kind of information, to get that quality of coach back down into the to the younger players, and pass on those words of wisdom and little nuggets of stuff that it'll take time, because like anything, if you see even problems we've had here in Ireland with trying to get, say, Ruud Doctor's model, his Dutch model, we're like 10 years into it, but we're starting to see a little bit. We see stuff with Stephen Kenny that he's done at the underage teams, and you're kind of going, ooh, are we starting to see this now? The problem is that if you start to see it and you think you're doing the right thing, chances are, it's moved on. I see Germany are re-evaluating the pathway that they created in, was 2002, 2006, the Bad World Cup.
I think 2000 was it the Euros? Was it 2000, or I think it was the Euros? They revamped.
They had a couple of bad tournaments, and they went, "Ooh, we got to fix everything." And then now their issue is they're saying that they've too many passers. So now they're going back to looking at 2v2s, 3v3s, small sided stuff, creating more individuals and allowing kids to express themselves. So that's always the worry with any pathway. But in China, the passion is there. Definitely the money's there. I mean, I said the expertise is there now because I'm there. Sorry. But look, there's a lot of Europeans out there now. I think what they've got now is, what I've seen, you're starting to see people out there that getting people to want to work there. Not just to cash in, not just go, okay, give us, some of the higher profile guys, because it's not easy. I mean, you are the other side of the world. It is a trek. Even though I don't mind it, well, I'm saying that to you now, maybe come back to me in 2 years' time, and if you've lived that length of time away from home, and you've, the language barrier that's there, the cultural barrier that's there, those kind of things definitely test you, because, as I say, there is the way they approach things. There's the way they treat each other, and the way the hierarchical system that they have. And, so for example, over here, we would probably lament at the fact that you would say to a player, do X, and he goes, but I think I should do this. And we'd have this moment, he'd have this individual thought, and that he question maybe to a certain extent what we say, or we challenge, what we say, and we say, oh, that's really bad. But then the other end of the spectrum is when a guy listens to only what you say, and he follows your exact instruction, But as you know, Jamie, from football in all team sports, the multi-dynamical systems that work off of varying, a massive amount of variance. So that for any one scenario, move the ball, move a player, move an opposition, the whole picture changes. So you have to have that free touch. You have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that as some of those countries, some of those, say, Eastern or Asian countries, that may be a stumbling block because they do work off, I'll tell you, you write it down. I'm saying from the schooling point of view, you write it down, you learn it exactly as it is, and that's how it is, you know. So they need to that'll have to embrace real Western cultures, and that's going to be difficult, difficult obstacle to overcome, I think.
Very interesting here.
Great to work with, like as an athlete, for me as a coach. I'm in the gym and I'm like, oh, do this and do that. And they're like, yeah, yes, sir, yes, coach. It's delight to work for, But when you put them on the football pitch, then, and sometimes it might frustrate you because you just say, well, why didn't you see that the player ran off your shoulder, that you needed to go, but you need to move from this position to that position? But you said, on the graphics that this is where I was supposed to be. So, but some really quality players. There is talent there. I've I started with Shanghai last was in March, Paddy's Day last year. So good. And I was in Thailand then as well in between that, and some really good technical kids. Really, a real appetite, and born out of, which is terrible, to a certain extent poverty. Where I'm either a footballer or I'm picking rice. Again, not to stereotype them, but there is that level of kind of of trying to, because so many people are put into, if your family are poor, then chances are you're going to be poor. The only way you're not going to be poor is if you're a footballer. That's steep. And it's an awful way to think about society, and that it's where capitalism trumps communism. Is where you say, I can climb up the ladder and I can do what I want to do. If I put my mind to it. It's a little bit more difficult in China and Asia and that.
It's definitely interesting what you say. Just hearing that from a football point of view, that the players are very, very good kind of at following instruction, and that you see that with the kind of the ideologies or whatever, and kind of particularly in China, where there's a lot less emphasis put on the individual thought. This idea that is so fundamental in the West of the individual is king, isn't it's not as big a thing in China. So as you said, expecting these footballers to think for themselves on the pitch, it's just very interesting to hear that that's just not the way they work. It's if they're told to do something, they'll do it, but there's a lot less original thought in their head.
Look, come here. This is, I said, it's only my opinion on it, and that from experience on it. Great innovators in certain ways, but I said, we see at the moment, say, with using this virus as an example of how the different societies reacted to it. Like speaking to the strength coach in China, like his family, that was lockdown. I know we spoke in the beginning about lockdown. It hasn't really been, not lockdown as in China lockdown, or some of the other countries that do not leave your even Spain. My parents have a place in Spain, and their friends were saying they literally were not allowed to leave the house. Police constantly stopping people and go home, get off the street, no one on the street. And I know my father-in-law was in Limerick today, and he was saying it is very quiet there. He said there's no one on the streets. So maybe it's just a little bit more out the country. We've been able to go about our lives a little bit easier in during this lockdown.
But no, definitely, I think it's definitely interesting seeing how different approaches, and I think the big thing to take away from all this is that different approaches and ideally a combination of approaches. If you look at, we won't get into anything greater than kind of footballers, because we can both speak some bit about what makes a good footballer, but the combination of having someone that has uses some of their kind of own knowledge, use their own judgment, and are quite good at following instruction. A combination of broad approaches, I think, definitely works for something like football.
Yeah, definitely. And look, there's a difference between being, say, disobedient and being disruptful in a group, or challenging. Like some of the best athletes, they've challenged you, questioned you to go, what's the answer to this? And that's the way it should be, I think, when you're doing it. As long
in every discipline,
yeah, and as long as they're bringing that level of commitment, as in, okay, well, this is the answer, this is why you're doing it, now do it to that level. Okay, but don't be questioning me and then out the back smoking a fag, like, you can't come and say, I'm this professional that wants to be pushed and wants to strive to be the best, whilst I'm also cutting corners on other aspects of either within that scenario, in that environment of the gym, or within that group. I suppose everyone's watching The Last Dance at the moment. Some phenomenal insight into the mind of great players and the team dynamic and the influence of a manager. But copy and paste that, it's not. It's difficult.
Like that. Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. You need to find, I think, what works for the particular group. I think one thing from The Last Dance you can probably take away is that to be the very best, you probably need a certain amount of imbalance in your life. Everyone talks about balance, but to be the very best, you probably need a certain amount of imbalance in your life. And then I think finding what works for that group of players is all you can do. But it has to be that specific group. It's not just a one size fits all model.
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, I saw Mike Boyle. He was speaking about Messi and gym work or not doing gym work, and saying, was it Chelsea manager Zeri was giving on about the strength and conditioning side of things, and you don't see weights on the pitch. But I thought he made a great point, and just basically, well, if you're Messi, you can do what you want because you're Messi. But the rest of us are mere mortals, so you have to kind of do it. And Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. We can't say, I want to be Michael Jordan, because you're not Michael Jordan, or you're not Messi, or you're not, you're not Ronaldo, or any of the other, 0.00001% of athletes that are there. The rest, then, you have to get that balance of, being good within the group, being, team player. You mentioned that earlier about that team dynamic. Can't have a team of mavericks running around the place. You're not going to achieve anything. So and I think, look, obviously New Zealand have that one, like, no dickheads. That's probably like, I think, you know what, I just there trying to think, have I worked with any dickheads? And you know what, like I said, probably people would think Jufy biggest dickhead. No, work to it. You get him right, get him in the advance, know his personality, know how to push him, know how to, you push hard on Jufy, he's gonna react to you, because he's like, I think he said it like this sewer rat that just wants to fight, wants to kind of go against thing. You can work with him, and get the balance. And there's a little bit of, as I said, knowing the personality of who you're dealing with and how you get the best out of them.
That's the challenge of the staff, isn't it? That's it's up to the staff to try and get the best out of these players. And
and again, Sam was just a master at that. Like, he knew the days off. But again, because just as the Irish lads, Keith, I probably would have spoke to a bit, but I remember Keith Andrews saying, you'd rather ask Sam for a day off than ask Neil McDonald. It might be different things that might be happening. Like, the boys maybe midweek might fancy going to the races. So if Cheltenham was on, so they might say to Sam, can I go down on the day off, on the Tuesday or whatever, the Wednesday, for the day? But rather than being caught down there, it's just tell him you're there, and then at least he knows, you're upfront about it. But the boys said they'd be praying, like Cheltenham week, that Sam would be in, because then they could go and ask him. But if Macker's the assistant manager, Neil, who managed Limerick as well, you'd hate to go and ask him, because he'd be like, no, you're not doing that, boys. no days off, or no, you're in work, or you're not going to Cheltenham, blah blah. But that's the man management, I think, that really sets everyone else aside from each other, and how they get the best. And that's why, I said you had Tommy on a couple of weeks ago, and Conor and Esther, who's doing really well in Cambodia, really good friends of mine. But they've started, they've done the hours of work and made the mistakes, which I'm sure they'll make themselves, with younger athletes. I think some ex-pros want to go straight in at the top end, not realising how difficult it was. And I've heard that from numerous players saying how difficult. Andy Reid was speaking at a conference in Carlow, or in November I was at, and he said he just couldn't believe how difficult it was putting out cones and how early you're out on the pitch. I mean, the idea that you could just walk every time you walked onto a pitch in his 20 odd years, the pitch was just, the goals were set up, the cones were set. We never thought that. No. Oh yeah, so this.
Yeah, you've seen these sessions 100 times. How hard can they be? But
Alan Quinn was on my. I had to do a CPD on my B license, and Alan Quinn was there, and he just started coaching, and I was at a table chatting with him, and he had done a session. It hadn't gone well. Like, he literally just went kind of not having it. It's fair enough. Like, it happened to us all. But I was doing it with Kamalik under 10s when I was, messing up on sessions. I wasn't doing it at a B license in front of 30 other coaches. He was just saying completely how difficult it was. Could not realise how hard it was to stand in the middle of the pitch, speaking to 20 people, 30 people, and everyone listening, and speaking to players. Says, and that only comes with experience. Do your courses, read your books, follow your thing, but you have to put in the yards, you have to put in the hours into it to get the achievement. And I'd like to think that I've done that, a lot of those. It's still way off where I'd like to be, and where I want to be as but professionally, and just as wise of my knowledge. You just know it's, when you speak. I often have chats with some mentors and people, and you just realise how far you got to go. You speak to a guy that's 46 or 48, and you got to go, oh my God, all right, okay. And I think I've a load done, but it's, which I have, but it's not nowhere near what I want to do or what I want to achieve.
Yeah. I think these things it's always a work in progress, and kind of improving yourself is always it's the eternal kind of thing, Joe. Just want to ask about the kind of the superstar players in China. So the Brazilian guys, or the I'm not sure what I don't know if they have a special term or whatever, but the big the superstar kind of foreign players and big money in these clubs.
Marquee signings, or they come under the foreign players. It's invariable that you're bringing in a foreign player that he's coming in as marquee signing.
There's a wage cap. Does it work like the MLS?
Well, that's just came in. Okay. But to be honest, they changed the rules quite a lot over there. I mean, they were did an issue with the underage players coming in. So what they did was, you have to start an under 21 player in every game. There has to be 5 on the bench or 3 on the bench, and one of them has to start. And then the managers were finding the loophole. Start him 5 minutes on, take the 21-year-old off with the experienced player. Okay, all right. The player has to be a 21-year-old on the pitch all the time, was the last one. And again, that rule is, again, in theories, work as your best under 21. But the problem is that if your best under 21 is the striker or the centre back, chances are that's where your marquee signing is. Yeah. Is either particularly a striker, invariably by strikers. Yeah. So what's happening is, it's very hard for the really good striker to get into the team, because it's a marquee infant team. So the Chinese national team now is struggling to get strikers.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, But it's that part of, rules and restrictions that sometimes kind of get forgotten about when you actually start living it and going through it. A lot of players playing on the wings, out of the way, put him in a position there, or maybe fullback, maybe just, if he's just really fit, okay, can be solid there for him. And the wage salary cap has come in now to 50,000, which I think is their way of hopefully starting to redress the balance of getting mercenaries and going, okay, you come in here, but come here, still massive money, but it was some of the salaries were phenomenal. Say, we look at it and maybe think, because you go to China, but how can you, if a guy goes over there and he's earning previous money, 100 grand a week, 125 grand a week, or 200 grand a week, can say you wouldn't do that. It's an awful lot of money that would effectively set your family up. And when you're over there and you see the games, and you see the support, and you see, as I said, stadiums, everything is there. Yeah. All that's missing is just getting that level of quality up to where, instead of maybe having, a Hulk who's like their quality, and then the least better player wherever he's from is down here, his lowest player. There shouldn't be that gap, but they need to try and close that gap between the worst player and the best player.
Yeah.
And then ideally that to be Chinese.
Yeah. As you said, like that kind of, when there is that gap in the skill level, how does that translate to Joe, like the dressing room and the club itself? Is there surely has to be some sort of an aura about these these guys that are on massive money? Yeah, look,
just only speaking with the lads, because just in case the SIPG thing, we were like, say, the academy, and then different to Blackburn, where we would have been in around, even though reserves would be in around the Blackburn training ground and senior staff and senior players. In Shanghai, then they had it separate, even though that's not the case in all the clubs. Well, I was at Evergrande, and they were the same. They had the academies there, and the first team are there. They're kind of, separated. So I wouldn't have seen what the Hulk and how they behaved. I know Ian had been speaking with the staff about it, and they said, Hulk is good around the players. He's good around, good character, and he behaves really well, and he's really professional. But I suppose it's like anything. He probably gets a little bit frustrated that maybe miscontrolled the past thing, and but like Scotland had something similar. I remember back when my early days for obviously Celtic and Rangers, but they were getting players coming at the end of their career up there, which is great. You're like, oh my God, like Ian Wright signs for Celtic. You're like, you didn't sign Ian Wright. You signed Ian Wright. It's like finished. You know what I mean? And you're watching him, and he's struggling. He's not the player you grew up watching, thinking, oh my God, what a player he is. You're watching him at the very end of his career. So that again is something that's, it's an experienced football country like Scotland, with a very good, professional game, and great traditions in the game. But that's, people look for that one, get a marquee sign and satisfy the supporters. Yeah. But there's this idea of being a weakest link sport and the strongest link sport. Like football is a weakest link sport. You're only as good as your weakest player. If you pass the ball, you need 7, 8, 9 passes, to score a goal, or you need, a lot of people got to touch the ball. Every time it goes to your weakest player and he miscontrols it, then the best player can't get the ball. So it's just about getting all rising tides that raise all boats, and just get everyone up to a good level. But I think, look, the main thing about it with China is they've got the money, and they're seriously trying to get football to an international level where they can compete. They're not there now, and that's why I'm so excited about being involved, because we're really at a very early stage of, using Connor's analogy of the generations. We're definitely very early in that part of it, and the idea that they could be potentially looking for World Cups and looking for big tournaments being hosted there, to be part of that, or to be some way involved in that. It's a really, really exciting project. Not to go all Brendan Rodgers on it, like, it is an exciting project.
The grass, like, I assume you're saying, there are going to be looking for a World Cup at some stage. I assume their plan then in the next whatever 10 years, 15 years, however long it may be, is to make sure they have a national team up to that level. So all the stuff you're doing now is obviously in the grassroots of building up to that.
Yeah, so, well, my role is, it was with the under-19s and basically, fitness, sports science consultant of sorts. But when we went back in January, they put us with the senior team because they got rid of Lippy, and Gus Hiddink went from the underage teams. Well, Lippy was senior manager, and Lee Tai, who played for Everton for a little bit, was with Sheffield United. So when we arrived out in January, we were put with his team, as in the senior team, the national team, with World Cup qualifiers to be played in March, June, July, and October. They've all been put up to, even now we don't know when they're going to take place. But so when I go back, whenever that is, hopefully, mid-July maybe, that's the team I'll be working with. So I will be working on the first team level. So we'll be getting really good insight to, going around, part of it will be going around to the different clubs, advising, helping on how their strength and conditioning and fitness side of things, how they're monitoring players. We're trying to improve the dialogue between the FA and the clubs so that the manager can be aware of where players are at, injury-wise, playing-wise, general fitness levels. We just need to get that information flowing between them, and just generally trying to improve the overall conditioning of the players. Still amazing. A little bit of a kind of the gym. I'll go in and do a little bit, but not, maybe to the extent of what it's like in certainly in England. I can't say for the rest of Europe now, but in England now it's, they're nowhere near the level of gym work that we would have done with our players, to the point where some players don't do any gym work, which is difficult on an international level because they arrive in an international camp and we're doing some gym sessions and the player tells you that he does gym or he doesn't do gym, then that's putting you in a difficult situation because you're putting him to a program that he's not familiar with. He's going to get a certain level of muscle soreness because of those muscles not being conditioned and worked in that way. So at the underage level, when I say with Shanghai and then with the national team, we had a better, we were able to get in control of that and just drive that much more because they're younger players. There's less pressure and less, obviously there will be tournaments we'll be preparing for, but like with the national team, we're going into a camp and it's like, we got to World Cup qualifier. You got to win these games. It's all well and good saying you're playing the Maldives. In the Maldives, you got to win. We should beat them, but you got to beat them. You know what I mean? You got to go to Singapore. It's like football is unbelievable in that respect because on any day, I know, as I said, should be beaten. Like country size and the size of China doesn't really matter because they actually, speaking to some of the lads, they have a very small footballing population. They're really like when I was in Thailand and you'd be driving whatever through the streets anywhere, even on the country, you see kids kicking the ball around. But when I was in China, I never really saw that when I traveled. Actually, never saw it. I wouldn't see the football isn't, even though, as I said, I see kids kicking a ball around. That doesn't necessarily mean they're playing football. They're just kicking a ball around. But that idea of a football being a play thing, I don't really see that as much in China. I didn't see it. I know up on the west coast of Russia, there is a lot of where Russia and China meet. There's a lot of football up on that side, and probably from maybe a little bit from the Russian influence over there. As there's a lot of football there, but in around Shanghai and Beijing and Evergrande and that, or Guangzhou. Sorry, my pronunciation. If any Chinese people are listening, they're saying that's not how you pronounce it. But didn't really see it a lot, and they need that. They need that grassroots of kids playing football all the time,
Are all the sessions are they all in English?
Well, we've translators.
Translators.
So, we do. Look, that was my first experience in Jordan. I was doing a presentation. It was on using heart rate monitors, and they hadn't been using them. So just 5 minutes, just give them, this is why we're doing it, and what they show, the information we're getting from it. Because we're in camp, you know, you can do these additional meetings, you know, to help, you know, give structure to the day and whatever. So I goes in and use a translator before, and I mean, as you probably know, so then you pause, and then the translator had to speak, and I'm like, I was speaking for that long, and you're like waiting, and you're waiting, and I was like, okay, so like you just get used to them. It's really, really snap, and you know, there's a book out. It's out this month actually, about the art of coaching. It's this idea of, you know, sorry, language of coaching, and it's like literally on the book list to get read, because, you know, the way we speak and the way I might speak to a European, Irish, British player compared to a Chinese player. I mean, there is an art in that, and there is a different tone and voice and expectations that you'd have. And then I said, when you're using a translator, the biggest one that I had was that the words don't translate exactly.
Yeah, so important,
for us, you know, in the gym, 3x10 and whatever your set range, they're the number, they're the kind of words I can learn and I use. But fast, slow, that's fine, no issue. But like, you know, in football, you know, you say things like 1-2s, you know, 1-2 with a player. Like some of that, there was a translator was explaining this. We said a lot of your football terminology doesn't translate. So when you say some of those words, that he often pauses, and they're like, you know, Jim, he's a great guy, like brilliant translator, and he's like, what's, you know, why aren't you speaking? And he's like, I'm not a computer, you know, I'm trying to figure out what that word means in Chinese. As I think if any of us use the Google Translate, you see sometimes that happens, and the words get kind of, you know, context and tone and whatnot. But certainly, it's something you have to be very, very conscious of when you're on the pitch or in the gym. A little bit easier in the gym. Gym is a lot about demonstrations, a lot about rep range, a lot about familiarization. Again, you know, same things I've learned about the basics are the basics, and there's the reason why the basics have lasted the test of time. You know what I mean? Because that's how good they are. You know what I mean? That's certainly not reinventing the wheel. You know, I'm not. You know, I don't think I ever will. Like, you know what I mean? It's there, and, you know, learn from experienced people, and, you know, obviously there's stuff that you can change. And ex-UL player Shane Murphy, who was at City, I mean, he's very good on that side of things, about knowing the balance between the basics and knowing, you know, the development of those exercises. But for where we are with this group of players, just get the basics right, and we'll build from there. You know, at this moment, in this period of the program and the project, and what we're trying to do, and what we're speaking with our bosses, the sporting directors, is we just want to get the basics right. Get the basics right, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah. The next few months, I'm sure, are kind of up in the air for everyone in the world at the moment. Looking kind of in the next maybe 2 or 3 years, though, what do you think? What are the plans for you? Do you think what do you foresee happening in the next few years?
Well, like if I went the other way 3 years back, I would have never thought of it. I would have had this 3 years in front of me. Like, the main thing for me is main thing is family, obviously, first and foremost, because Aoife, girlfriend, like I can't do this unless you get that level of support. My parents are different. You know what I mean? It's like they obviously support, and they're just excited that I'm doing this, and brothers and sisters and family and friends. But it's obviously your girlfriend, when she's like, okay, you can go to China, or you can go to Jordan or Thailand and blah, blah, and do that. But, you know, at some stage you go, I want to get closer to home. She's a pharmacist technician. So, you know, she's had a difficult few months with this being a frontline. You know, I've saw a frontline, you know, worker, in the sense that she has seen and been, not that we've been very lucky here and come out not to see a whole pile of it, but certainly the panic from other people can create their own panic to you, where you can see how worried everyone is, and, you know, invariably, if someone walks into a pharmacy, it means that they're sick, so you're worried about that side of it. So she's had a tough couple of months and it's been great that I've been home to be able to support that. But it would have been a very difficult few months if I'd actually not got home, if I'd had to stay away and got grounded in China. So that'll ultimately be my decision when I have to, give up being Peter Pan and grow up and return, leave Neverland, So I definitely have that, where I know that there's at some point you're going to have to, or for the sake of our relationship, I'm not going to sacrifice my relationship for being away. That said, I'm getting opportunities now at the moment that you can't turn up, because if I say, the improv thing, I say no, someone else says yes, boom, it's forgotten about. I mean, you're not. I'm not that good at my job that you'll be crying about if I decide that I turn the contract down. I'd love to go west, and I know that like the way things are in America, it doesn't sound, but I've always had this idea that I'd like to go and work in America. Spoke with Seattle Sounders earlier in the year about a possible opportunity, but the China thing just ended up being the better one. But yeah, look, football's amazing. As I said, my really good friend Conor Nestor's down in Cambodia doing brilliant work, and I don't know much how the world and travel will be after this, but I still think there's plenty of places I'd like to go and do and experience, and definitely makes you, I think, a better person going to meet these, knowing what Chinese people are like, knowing how great they are, how friendly they are, and how different personalities that you get. An unbelievable. We haven't spoken about Thailand, but that was an unbelievable experience. And being here in Ireland, people mentioned Thailand. It has this kind of, I suppose, maybe sorry kind of. Such really nice people. Kids are unbelievable. The standard of football at the academy was super. I couldn't. I'm just so lucky that I've experienced all of these things, I have to say. And at the moment, I'm not ready to come home just yet. I'll just settle it up. But you never know. Things change quite quickly.
That's it. Yeah, I think it's whatever you end up doing. I think learning just from like the cultural point of view, the life experience point of view, is great. Like I know I've done different things myself, and wherever I kind of end up doing them, it's always the other stuff on the other side of it, that you find very interesting. So you said, seeing what people are like in Thailand, what people are like in China, the Middle East. Then Jesus, not too many people are going to have an opportunity to go there. So it is definitely great to get the just such a wide experience of the world. And look, long may it continue. The next 18 months, our contract with China is till December 2021. So that, just World Cup qualifiers within that. The under AFC championship with the underage teams, they've different kind of like our European championships of sorts. That the Asian teams play against each other. Within that group, then that under 19 group we're with, that's the Olympic team, which basically means that they're preparing for Paris which I think is 2024. So how that that group will, not all that group, but a lot of that group will be earmarked on how their development goes, and we're involved with that as well. So like if you were lucky enough to go to an Olympics, or to be involved with a team on their preparation of qualifying for an Olympics. My girlfriend's going to walk in the door now and panic that I'm still on the phone. Dog, kiss. So, Derek, thank you very much for joining me. To everyone that's joined us, thank you very much. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Derek, thanks a million. Really enjoy that now. Lots of interesting stuff there. Hopefully other people enjoy it. Thanks a million, and enjoy the rest of lockdown.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks very much for having me. It's been really enjoyable, and I hope I haven't bored your listeners too much and haven't name dropped too many times. But that's just the nature of it, So enjoy the rest of lockdown.
Yeah, as I always say, Derek, once I enjoy it, that's all that I really care about. If other people do, that's a bonus. So, thanks a million. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, man. See you later.